President Bola Tinubu seems to be in a no-nonsense mood at the moment. That's if we are to go by his words and actions in the last few days. Barely a week after suspending his Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Adeyanju, over alleged infractions in the disbursement of funds for poverty alleviation in the country, President Tinubu on Friday suspended all the National Social Investment Programs administered by the National Social Investment Program Agency, NSIPA. Now, the schemes are NPower Program, Conditional Cash Transfer Program, Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, and Homegrown School Feeding Program. According to the President, all the 4 programs have been suspended for a period of 6 weeks in the first instance to allow investigations into programs and determine whether or not they should continue to exist. The minister was suspended over allegations of transferring 585 million naira to a private account in violation of Nigeria's financial regulations. All right, to help us shed more light on the scandal and the action of President Tinubu, we have joining us in the studio convener of Concerned Nigerians, Deji Adeyanju. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And also joining us is a forensic expert and public affairs analyst, Dr. Mefor.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
Doctor. Yes.
Thank you.
So, Deji, let's start. Looks like President Bola Tinubu is in a no-nonsense mood, like we said. Yeah. I mean, what's been your view? I mean, these social investment programs, he said, look, can you just match the break now? Let me see what's going on.
Yes. Sincerely speaking, I hope it's not a flash in the pan. Initially, when the president made some of those courageous moves, I was like, maybe he's trying to do the moves so that maybe this week, since it is Judiciary Week, you know, maybe they were planning to do some abracadabra. But to God be the glory, I think the president was sincere in his moves. Again, I will not be in a hurry to overpraise the president, because Adeyanju is just one among how many ministers, so many ministers we have in the country.
Which yes, you said
yes. So and what has done, even if you look at her response, she said it is. I think what she said at the heat of the moment was that this is common practice.
Yeah,
you know, all the ministers do it. There's nothing that Betta has done that they are not doing. Quote me anywhere today that even NNPC transfers money to private accounts.
Interesting.
NNPC.
Do you have proof?
Yes, I do. Okay. I can provide you audited and classified transfers from NNPC into private accounts. I can provide it for you. CBN transfers money. Even this set of people that have taken over from the crooked Mefor administration, these new guys are transferring money to private accounts.
Well, very strong allegations there. And I'll bring you in, Doctor. You're a forensic expert.
Yeah.
So what have you made of the president's decisions and actions? And it looks like he's saying, please, can you just match the break? Let me see. What exactly is in this humanitarian ministry? Does it look like the president didn't really know, or he's playing to the gallery?
No. I don't think the president is playing to the gallery. I believe the move he has made is only necessary. It's the only way he can succeed. And the humanitarian ministry is key, because that appears to me to be the ministry that connects the people, the masses. We're talking about empowerment here. You know, when you talk about conditional cash transfer to a petty trader whose total capital may be 10,000 naira, if he or she gets 20,000, he makes it 30,000, right?
Yeah.
It's a leap. It's upscaling. It's something serious. Mm-hmm. You know, people who are up there may not really value what the ministry stands for. So, in principle, the ministry really represents something. That is a major ministry for Nigerian masses. But the way the place has been run is what the issues are. Because if you check from it's a foundation 5 years ago, that was when it was established. You know, there are certain basic indices that ought to be in place for the place to really function the way it should. Let me mention just one. Okay. National Social Register. Do you understand that? If you don't have it, authentic National Social Register, if you don't have it, you can't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, and
authentic.
That became very,
you know, and that is very fundamental. And you know, and I found out, you know, the ministry officials, the people up there, keep saying that the registers are generated by the governors. I don't think that is right. the ministry must develop its own register and have it out there. It has to be electronic. People should access it. And it should be word-based. What I mean by word-based, follow the channel that INEC has applied to get to Nigerians in registration. You have 176,606 words in Nigeria. We want to see every village should be able to go to the portal and check the town people, you know, those who should be on that register and see if they are there or not. But that is not the approach they have adopted.
All right.
So it makes the whole thing more curious.
Yeah, and I'm coming to you, Deji, because that's at the heart of the controversy.
That's it.
That in this ministry, I mean, we saw former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo going to market and sharing money. Some of these people are said not to have accounts. So if the minister was actually meant to be sharing these monies to people, how did Nigerians expect the minister to actually derive this list and share these monies out? Because it looks like the institution there is very weak and gives room for corruption.
You see, this brings us to the leadership problem we have in Nigeria. You know, I have gotten to the point that I think we should outsource leadership and governance to the Chinese and to the United Arab Emirates. The reason why
that's a controversial statement.
No. The reason why I'm making this is that Africans generally, it's not a Nigerian problem, it's an African problem. It will surprise you that the thieves outside government are more than the thieves inside government. Better is just a metaphor. That's why I started in my opening remarks to say there is no minister in this government that has not done what Better has done. There's no minister. So if EFCC will be sincere, it will not just, because the only reason why Better was caught was because the lady that was suspended, Better reported the lady to say,
that's a program manager.
Yes, that this lady stole 40-something billion. Then the lady in turn say, thief, they call me thief. Say, you too, you transferred money. You transferred money into a personal account. So, and now, if you look at Section 7, Section 11 of the Money Laundering Act, you will see that there are clear provisions on things like this. But expressly, Section 713 of financial regulations, then Section 3108 as well. But let me not bore you with all this. As a lay person or a politician, how many politicians have the time to read over 3,000 sections of a financial regulation? What about, and if you look at that ministry and every ministry, and this is what brings to the fore the issue of the role that the civil service play in the administration and governance of a nation. Listen, the politicians in that ministry, they are not up to even 5%. They are not even up to 2%. The civil servants constitute more than 97% in that ministry.
Yeah.
The civil servant and the head of the civil service and the head of the civil servants in that ministry, they are actually the financial administrator of that ministry. So there is no way that everybody now is screaming Better. Yeah, what about the civil servants?
Yeah, but the civil servants are being called in. I mean, just yesterday, I think about 20 directors were asked to appear before the EFCC and all of that.
Yeah. Yes.
And
so because there's a procedure, you cannot say this. You cannot say, for instance, that money was transferred into an account. Before that money was transferred, there's a procedure. So, how was what were the steps that were taken before the money was transferred?
Yeah, but Nigerians are also angry with her that she could approve monies for people to go on a trip, on a flight trip to Kogi, your state, where there's no airport.
Now, let me address that issue as well.
Yeah.
You see, it is important when things like this come up for us to contextually say that corruption has become so endemic in our country that it's impossible. Look at the line-by-line item in the budget that was just passed. Almost everything in that budget is a replicate of what happened last year. So why should you be surprised that?
Yeah, but projects are always ongoing. Projects are completed.
So you bought something last year. What happened to the one last year? The cars that you bought last year. Why must you buy fresh cars this year? So it's not a Better issue. It's not a Ministry of Humanitarian issue. Go to the Ministry of Defense and making a clear allegation, they pay money into private accounts.
Well, so some people may want to say maybe that's a
there is no maybe.
That's a security establishment. You are a forensic expert.
Yes.
Can the government provide excuse?
No, if the EFCC will be sincere.
Like,
if the EFCC will be sincere.
I'm bringing this in, Deji, because remember the Ikoyi gate,
yeah,
where money's cash were found in dollars and all of that.
Yes.
Only for the government to come and tell us that they were using it for espionage activities.
Yes.
If we are to conduct a forensic examination of how government finances actually move through, what ways should we now be advocating as the clean methods to prevent our politicians from pilfering with funds?
Is basic. What is needed here is not forensic science. It's very clear, and of course, the financial regulations, they are there. The procedures to follow to bring out money.
Yeah, but despite that, people are still pilfering into public purse.
That is where I am coming to. You know, under the last presidency of Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria was free for all, right? You know,
despite all the TSA,
despite
you see,
all that, forget all that. You know, somebody has to activate those things and ensure that they work. You know, so Buhari wasn't on top of his presidency, health and all sorts. By the time he came to real governance, a cabal had already hijacked the whole process. So Buhari's presidency was actually outsourced to some
like
people.
You said earlier.
No, wait, but that's a fact.
Not to the Chinese
so that is what is going on. Now that we have a brand new presidency, Tinubu has bared his fangs. We want to see how far he can go. What to do is very simple. You know, if you come to what has happened with Beta, Edu, and the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, and of course, going by her own account also, that is business as usual. That is common practice, in her own words. Do you see the point? What that means is that she is merely following through what she meant as a process. Now, you now ask yourself, first off, if you come to a ministry, the minister is not the accounting officer, is the permanent secretary.
Yeah, but the permanent secretary gave us some information that, look, take a second look at this, but she was said to have bypassed the permanent secretary and collaborated with the director of finance.
And that could
be...
the
director of finance is not a civil servant.
Well, you know, and she's also saying that the project manager is also a public accountant too.
Okay, so now, this brings me to the issue.
Sorry, you've already cut into his conversation.
Yeah,
let us allow him to
let me land and yield to him. You see, the point is, we have often called for international forensic investigation into Nigeria public finance. There are key ministries, MDAs that needed to be investigated, not by Nigerians. This is not to undermine what Baze is doing. Baze is doing a fantastic job. But if you really want to get to the nitty-gritty of what has happened to Nigeria, there is one document you need to go and lay hands on. The document is very simple document presented by Femi Falana-San. He pointed to about 25 areas that needed investigation. How Nigeria has been fleeced. He mentioned figures, he mentioned organizations, he mentioned even individuals. Hand that simple document over to a forensic investigation expert. But Nigerian based, like I said,
President Tinubu will spend the whole of his 4 years.
No, he doesn't have to. No, he does not have to. You hand this over. While they are at that, you face governance. I think he's doing fairly well in the era of governance for now, as far as I am concerned. Okay. But the economy, you know, he still has to do some serious fundamental rejigging if he has to get that area right.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's why you were saying, Deji, that look, accountants, the system, the trail, is all there before us, and yet, so despite all these regulations, it looks like...
okay, which politician is going to read a 3,000 section law?
Yeah, but they had a ministerial retreat at the villa, for example.
A jamboree. It was a jamboree. People were just having tea, having fun. So when you come to a ministry as a minister, the permanent secretary will tell you, the directors, the deputy directors, the assistant directors, You know, I've heard that the permanent secretary has tried to exonerate himself in all this. Now, and after all, the place where that, and even if you want to steal in a place like humanitarian, why will you transfer money to a private account when you can actually genuinely steal a lot of money?
Well, now we don't encourage stealing.
And
of course, Olubunmi Tunji Ojo is also in the eye of the storm. Some of these contracts went to APC members.
I'm trying to make a simple analogy here.
Yeah.
And the simple analogy is that, look at it critically. For instance, you transferred money. If you're a minister, just like what he was saying, and they tell you that this is how we do it here. Because her first statement, this is how we do it here, as a minister. And you saw what happened to Dave Umahi. Dave Umahi, the civil servant in his ministry, locked him out of the ministry. So, there's always this tussle between ministers and political office holders and the civil servants. So, and majority of what we hear in the ministries, this is what they've all have been doing. So if the EFCC, my appeal to the EFCC is that if the EFCC wants to help us get rid of corruption, it should not just be to pick up an individual. Yes, this individual has violated the law. However, let it be across board so that we know that we are making attempt at hygiene in the country. Secondly, you remember that Obaze in his report said few days to the election that Emefiele and the former SGF, they went into the CBN vault and they carried, it's in his report.
Yeah, but of course, both the SGF, former SGF, yes, Mustafa denied it to his lawyers. Emefiele denied it to his lawyers. And some of the management of the CBN said they were not given a fair hearing.
No, despite the denial, if an investigator, a special investigator, he said it's on the CCTV, they carried $6 million cash from CBN vault and they were struggling and moving it out. So people that are carrying $6 million cash out of safe, you are talking about transferring money to...
Well, so that means the EFCC and the ICPC, they have a lot of jobs to do. A lot of work to do.
See, my brother, I will not be shocked. I will not be shocked if some of these infractions are even happening in ICC and EFCC.
Yeah, and good enough. President Tinubu happens to be an accountant.
Yes.
So let's see if he can help reform this. But just quickly, in addition to what you want to say,
yes,
Doctor, how do we ensure that this these programs have now been suspended? How do we ensure that they do not affect those that are that these programs are actually meant to cater? Those who have been receiving all these monies here and there.
You see,
what do we do after the 6 weeks that President Tinubu has said that
I appeal to the president not to cancel these 4 lofty programs. They are meant for Nigerian masses.
So they should be sustained.
They should be sustained.
Okay.
But then you need to clean out the process.
Yeah, that's
so
what
that because the issue here now is that the intendments of these programs don't really get to the people targeted. As such, right? It doesn't trickle down enough. So you need to really do the proper thing. And that is why I called for National Social Register. You need to have it before you can do anything.
The former organization actually prepared it until the governors now said that no, they are the ones who want to generate the number of poor people in their states now.
What the governors have done was to use the opportunity to prepare for their second coming. It becomes a political program. It is not supposed to be a political program. It's apolitical. It's for Nigerian masses. The ministry, the concerned agencies will have to generate the National Social Register. This is number 1. Then number 2, if you really want to find out what happened, if you go to financial regulations, you have thresholds. You have ceilings of approvals coming from these agencies. Any penny more than the approval limit goes to the minister or goes to the Federal Executive Council. So how come billions, we are moving around without because obviously, if you check, you can run a check on this, you will find out that these billions far outweighs their approval limits, even ministerial approval limits. What that means is that the monies were moved without passing through the proper channels. In other words, it's not a mistake because you know.
I mean, that's why Deji said earlier.
You know that this is
happening everywhere.
People are bypassing that is why you have to do complete investigation, forensic audit. And I keep saying it has to be done by foreigners. If you, when you do that, you will identify the people that run the country aground and send them to jail. And until people are locked away, there will be no deterrence. Worse is yet to come.
Very strong words you've got.
No. That's my recommendation.
You are saying that we should have this forensic investigation. We've had so many of them, and there's no political will to send people to jail. Deji, as we try to round off this conversation, there are some other people who have said that the humanitarian ministry has been a honeypot for the APC. I mean, right from Sadia Umar Farouk. Let's not forget too that it looks like this ministry is a subtle way of empowering APC members, both at the leaders at the top, including the cash register and petty members of the APC. What's been your overview of
Sadia Umar, the mother of corruption, that's what I call her.
Well, it's still an allegation.
Allegation how? During COVID, this woman, you remember the kind of outrageous figures and billions this woman said she shared during COVID, when everybody was at home? With no evidence. In how many? In 1 week. So how do you justify some of these things? Now, because I always like making analogies. Look at, there is no agency of government as corrupt as the NNPC in Nigeria. You see,
that is the allegation.
Yeah, you see the NNPC. You are talking of humanitarian ministry. When you go to the NNPC, what happens in NNPC is that NNPC can transfer 6, 7, 8, 12, 13 billion. They can transfer $42 million to an individual without any line item on it. Go and check their
That's why we have the National Financial Intelligence Agency. Are you saying that agency doesn't track this money? And banks are also supposed to put these things down if money is passing through the banks.
My brother, when President Tinubu gave Mele Kyari a second term, I said to myself, Emefiele deserves an apology from the president. The reason why I said Emefiele deserves an apology is that
very quickly, because
Mele Kyari is a person that is responsible for the balkanization of our economy today.
Well, you see, are very strong
the lack of dollar in the economy.
Yeah, I mean, you're going into unfamiliar grounds. Because it is that you will need very strong evidence. For him to have been given a second term, I'm not backing him. But for him to have been given a second term,
you see, NNPC failed to remit money into Federation account for over 2 years. The money we generated when we were selling oil for $120-something per barrel, they said they were going to look for oil up north.
Yeah, in Bauchi, and we saw President Tinubu.
The money vanished. The money vanished.
Well,
but conclusively,
very quickly.
Conclusively as regards to humanitarian.
Yes.
You see, the report of the investigation must be in such a way that it identifies the role that civil servants have played in that ministry.
Yeah,
because there's more than meets the eye in the ministry. Lot has gone on in that ministry.
Very interesting point indeed. In 30 seconds, just before I let you go, what should happen to that report, the outcome of this investigation when President Tinubu?
For me, the investigation should not be politicized. The investigation has to be conclusive and it has to be acted upon. All you need is political will. Okay. So the buck stops at the table of the president.
Good to know that.
If they don't implement the report, it means Tinubu has gone the way of others. That is what it is.
Good to know that President Tinubu is an accountant himself and he's worked in the oil industry too with all the allegations you've brought in here. So he'll put together all of this and then we'll see his political will. We must thank you so much, Dr. Lord Mefor.
Thank you.
He's a forensic expert and he has joined us here to help us understand the issues in the humanitarian ministry. And of course, Deji Adeyanju, very strong words and allegations you've been making here. And you say you have documents to back up all these allegations. Absolutely. Well, I'm very sure the EFCC may be inviting you to...
I'm willing to help them even tomorrow, Sunday. Tomorrow, Sunday,
all right, we must thank you so much for joining us on the program.